Hey everybody, this is Michelle with Bob Rewards Club. I'm coming to you live to talk about a very serious topic. And it is an ongoing. Hey, this is Michelle with Bob Rewards Club. Sorry about that. It's an ongoing topic that I'm going to be talking about, which is slave reparations. It is an important issue that has been challenged now for the last, I would say, 30 odd years with serious cases that have been overturned or dismissed, and our courts, both in district court and in federal district court, court of appeals. So today I do want to talk about and review the case for reparations for American Descendants of Slaves, the United States Court of Appeals. Okay, the seventh District Court that is in Chicago. That I'm going to be playing the hearing, a part of that hearing, where you'll kind of hear the discussion, as well as we're going to be discussing today about the reparations for 40 acres and a mule, what was passed down back, in the Reconstruction period. Also, we will be looking at, you guys will be listening to some videos and some audio for recently. I don't know if you guys watch Will Johnson at all. Will Johnson, he is an ultra conservative Republican, staunch supporter of for Donald Trump, and basically he had some very interesting callers Friday night on his program, which is called Unite America First. Now, most of the stuff I do not agree with him on. However, if we're going to have a discussion about reparations, we have to have a race discussion in this country, and we also cannot ignore the relationship between white Jews have with blacks, ADOS. So a lot of these topics I find very interesting, and like I said, it's going to be a series of videos that are made. So hey, let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to share my screen with you all. First, I kind of want to just discuss what 40 acres and a mule refers to. It was a promise that was made in the United States for agrarian reform to former enslaved black farmers by Union General William Sherman on January 16, 1865. Okay. It followed a series of conversations between Secretary of War Edwin Stanton and radical Republican abolitionist Charles Sumner and Theodore Stevens. Following disruptions to the institution of slavery provoked by the American War, many freedmen believed and were told by various political figures that they had the right to own the land they had long worked as slaves and were eager to control their own property. Freed people widely expected to legally claim 40 acres, okay, a mule at the end of the war, long after proclamations such as Sherman's Special Field Orders number 15 and the Freedmen's Bureau Act were explicitly reversed. Now, this is coming from Wikipedia, And as you guys know that I do use Wikipedia a lot, and if it's the first thing that comes up when a person does a search, like your children or anything like that, that's why we have to go, it's good to kind of go over. Now, you have to look at things critically because, of course, everything that you see written down is not accurate. So some people did receive, according to this, At that time, some slaves did receive the 40 acres in a mule and $100. Okay, but that was overturned by Andrew Johnson after Lincoln was assassinated, because Andrew Johnson became the person who had the power. Okay, he became the president, and so he overturned it. And so these things are, often people think of these things are political. Okay, and you cannot get discouraged by what's happening, by bad negativity and negative affirmations. Because yesterday I was on, I don't know if you guys are familiar with some of the Black YouTubers, but I was on a panel discussion on Nyla Says. And Nyla, I like her platform because she'll often put other Black YouTubers on there, who some of them are part of the Black conscious community, and and some of them talk about Black relationships, like Cynthia G and Taz or whatever. But they're yesterday they can be very disrespectful. Not Nyla, but Cynthia G and Taz. And so if you guys want to go look at that video, you guys, go right ahead and take a look at that. That is at Nyla Says, NYLAHSAYS. You can find her. She's a Black YouTuber. Okay? I don't agree with all the content of all the Black YouTubers, but as I said, I like her panel where she brings different Black YouTubers together and have a discussion. Some of the topics I'm just not for, especially not for the Dust Beta man stuff. I like to uphold my Black brothers. But in any event, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys here the actual case that was overturned. This was back in 2006. Okay. If you want to take a look at it, the title is at the beginning of, you can see it on the thumbnail, African American Slave Descendants Litigation Appeals of Deidre Farmer, Perlman, and all. Okay, so there's a ton of them, as you can see. There's a ton of attorneys, because what happened before this, what preceded this, was you had several cases where descendants of slaves, okay, so that terminology, descendants of slaves, is not new. Just to let everybody know, that terminology itself, it has been, you can see it everywhere, long before Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. Now, what they're known for is the ADOS hashtag, okay, which you can find everywhere right now. If you go on Twitter or if you're on YouTube, you will see that hashtag ADOS. That stands for American Descendants of Slaves. So as you can see, there were a lot of attorneys, and what preceded this was they went into the federal district courts and they brought up these cases, and they had won basically, and then they basically took it to appeal the attorneys for these large corporations, Aetna. Let's see, J.P. Morgan. Let me find where it says that here. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So the defendants are companies or the successors to companies that provided services such as transportation, finance, and insurance to slave owners. At least two of the defendants were slave owners. The predecessors of one of the bank defendants once accepted 13,000 slaves as collateral on loans and ended up owning 1,250 of them when the borrowers defaulted. And the predecessors of another defendant ended up owning 346 slaves. So they were just trying to see here if it lists the actual name of other companies. But Aetna, as I said, J.P. Morgan, Chase, I believe it was Fleet, and a lot of your large major companies. Okay, there's a lot of American rich privately owned companies still that are in existence today that had slaves. Okay, that profited off of slaves. Jim Beam. Okay, you have Levi Strauss. I mean, there's a ton of them, and these companies are still in existence right now. And so, what ruled this out with the courts is that, and I'm gonna go ahead and play the video. That's what I'm gonna do right now, so you guys can listen to it. Okay. And this is from C-SPAN.
Preliminary comment, my co-counsel, have noticed we're making a motion to recuse the panel. We've noticed that there was a panel with the sole African American judge on there for all the cases this morning, and now with this case, she's no longer here. My co-counsel, Mr. Afrin, had a very detailed discussion with the clerk's office on the basis of why that was. He was unable to get any information. We're concerned, given the nature of the issue we've brought here, given who our clients are, that there should at least be some explanation. In lieu of that, we're asking that the panel recuse itself.
Well, you can file a motion if you'd like.
Now, this is Richard Posner. He is the judge,
We'll give you 10
Court of
days
Appeals
to file
judge, and I'm going to talk about him as well.
Okay.
Something very interesting about his past.
So,
he is now retired.
Steve?
Mr. Afrin I will be addressing the issue of the statute of limitations. Mr. Afrin will be addressing the issue of
This is
standing.
Roger Wareham. He is a black attorney out of New York.
For a complaint. Each of us will be using 5 minutes, and we're reserving 5 minutes for.
He is arguing
rebuttal.
for the slave reparations.
Here, seeking some measure of redress for the victims of a crime against humanity, the transatlantic slave trade and slavery in the United States. We have brought this suit on numerous grounds. Judge Norgal at the district court incorrectly found that the plaintiff's demands, all of them, were barred by the statute of limitations. We believe that equity states that every wrong demands a remedy, and that this is a case that demands the application of an equitable analysis, and in particular the application of equitable tolling, which permits a plaintiff to sue after the statute of limitations has expired, if through no fault or a lack of diligence on his part, he was unable to sue before, even though the defendant took no active steps to prevent him from suing. And in this case, we believe not only did the plaintiffs exercise due diligence, but that the defendants took active steps to at least conceal their involvement in this crime against humanity. It is not an issue of whether plaintiffs are the ancestors of the plaintiffs knew that they had been injured. There's no way that they could not have known that they had been injured in terms of being victims of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. They knew the whip, they knew chains, they knew the humiliation of having their children sold, their wives raped, their men bred as studs, of enforced literacy, and they knew the misery of working from can-see to can't-see without being paid for it. but they did not know those who were responsible for their condition. They did not know about banks and insurance companies in far-off northern states whose investments in them made the institution of slavery.
I also forgot to tell you guys that normally at this time we talk about Black business entertainers, 4 p.m. at Central Standard Time. Today Hamlin is traveling, so that's one reason why I'm coming to you guys talking about another subject matter that I've already been talking about. So, hey, this is, like I said, this is part one of how American descendants of slaves can get reparations. If we have to go through history and kind of talk about it in an intelligent, intellectual way, so that we can all be on code and work towards this. We can all work towards this movement. But again, I'm going to let you listen to Roger Warham. He was the attorney that argued for the slave reparations, okay? He was one of them. There were several attorneys.
And even if they had known, there were no courts available for them to seek redress.
2006.
Contrary to Judge Norgal's version of history that he put out in his order, the end of chattel slavery, the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution did not produce a land of milk and honey for formerly enslaved Africans. Judge Norgal's version of history, upon which he predicates his decision to deny us equitable tolling, ignores the issue of lynchings, ignores the reality of sharecropping, of Jim Crow, of the Ku Klux Klan, which reigned supreme for almost 100 years following the end of chattel slavery.
And how that supports equitable tolling, because these it's wrong, the slave trade and exploitation by businesses.
I just want you to know, listen to all the coughing and the, it's like